We don't hide anymore. From now on, they will dream of us.
Vlad the Impaler didn't just kill his prisoners. He turned their bodies into warnings. Men were kept alive for hours, sometimes days, mounted in public view, designed to break the minds of anyone who saw them. This wasn't punishment. It was terror, engineered to spread fear faster than war. Impalement began with preparation, not rage. The stake was carefully selected, smoothed, and sometimes greased. Contrary to popular myth, it was not always sharpened to a lethal point. A blunt or rounded end prolonged survival. The stake was inserted into non-vital areas to avoid immediate death. Victims could remain alive for hours or even days. This was intentional. The longer the suffering, the stronger the message. Death was not the objective demonstration. Victims were positioned along roads, near city gates, and on hillsides. Vlad turned landscapes into warning signs. Entire fields of impaled bodies were arranged in patterns. Men, women, and even children were sometimes separated by age or status. Ottoman soldiers wrote about approaching cities surrounded by forests of corpses. This was not chaos. It was staged, and Vlad understood visual dominance centuries before modern media theory existed. Prisoners were often forced to watch others being impaled before their turn came. This anticipation amplified terror. Psychological breakdown frequently occurred before physical pain began. Some confessed to crimes they never committed just to avoid the stake. Others begged for quicker deaths. Vlad rarely granted mercy. The punishment was a spectacle. Survival time was a feature, not a flaw. The method also served a technological purpose for its time. Impalement required minimal resources, no expensive weapons, no trained executioners, no prolonged battles. One stake could be reused. This efficiency allowed mass punishment at low cost. In modern terms, it was scalable terror. Vlad could control large populations with limited manpower. That efficiency is one reason historians consider him an early practitioner of asymmetric warfare. What shocks modern analysts is how carefully Vlad controlled the narrative. He allowed survivors to flee. Refugees carried stories far beyond Wallachia. These accounts exaggerated numbers and horror. Vlad did not correct them. Fear multiplied organically. Today, this would be called information warfare. Back then, it was reputation engineering. Even foreign ambassadors were not spared psychological tactics. One famous account describes Ottoman envoys refusing to remove their turbans. Vlad had them nailed to their heads permanently. This was not impulsive cruelty. It was a symbolic attack on authority and identity. He understood that humiliation could destabilize empires more effectively than swords. Modern forensic analysis suggests many victims died from dehydration, infection, or exposure rather than direct trauma. This extended timeline increased visibility. Bodies remained upright for days. Birds circled overhead. The smell carried across distances. Sensory impact mattered. Vlad designed punishments that overwhelmed sight, sound, and smell simultaneously. Technology historians draw uncomfortable parallels between Vlad's methods and modern deterrence strategies. Nuclear weapons are rarely used. Their power lies in the threat. Vlad's impalement forests functioned the same way. He created a consequence so extreme that resistance collapsed before combat began. Fear replaced force. Execution sites were also chosen strategically. Hills allowed maximum visibility. Roads ensured traffic exposure. Riverbanks trapped fleeing enemies between water and terror. This was terrain-based psychology. He turned geography into a weapon. Modern military academies still study terrain dominance. Vlad practiced it with bodies. Even internal dissent was managed through terror. Thieves, corrupt officials, and political rivals faced public impalement. Crime reportedly dropped dramatically. Whether exaggerated or not, the perception mattered. Order through fear became his brand. Stability was enforced, not negotiated. What makes this more disturbing is how methodical it all was. There are records of Vlad dining among impaled victims, not out of madness, but to reinforce control. He normalized horror to desensitize himself and his followers. This psychological distancing is now studied in behavioral science. Leaders who normalize violence reduce internal resistance to cruelty. Modern technology allows us to reconstruct these scenes digitally. Archaeological findings, written records, and terrain mapping show consistency across locations. This confirms that impalement was not an isolated behavior. It was systematic, repeated, optimized. Some historians argue that Vlad exaggerated cruelty to compensate for limited military strength. Wallachia was small and under constant threat. Terror leveled the playing field. In a way, Vlad hacked medieval warfare. He replaced numbers with narrative, and it worked. Ottoman forces reportedly retreated after encountering massive impalement sites. Not because of casualties, because morale collapsed. Soldiers refused to advance. Fear disrupted command structures. This is identical to modern studies on combat psychology. Soldiers fight machines. They fear symbols. The punishment also served as population control. Public executions discouraged rebellion. People policed themselves. Vlad outsourced enforcement to fear. This reduced the need for surveillance. In today's terms, it was a low-bandwidth control system. High impact, minimal infrastructure. What shocks researchers today is how little randomness existed. Victims were categorized. Crimes matched punishments. Social rank influenced placement. This hierarchy reinforced power structures. Everyone knew where they stood. Literally. Medical analysis suggests Vlad understood anatomy better than commonly assumed. Avoiding vital organs required knowledge or experienced executioners. This was not barbarism alone. It was applied anatomy. Pain is engineered through an understanding of the human body. The myth of Vlad as a vampire came later, but the foundation was real. People associated him with endless death and upright corpses. Folklore filled gaps with monsters. Technology today does the same through media amplification. Horror scales when stories travel faster than facts. Modern ethical debates about capital punishment echo here. The question is not just death, it is how punishment is displayed. Vlad believed visibility was essential. Hidden punishment failed as deterrence. This clashes with modern human rights standards, but the strategic logic remains studied. Today, simulation software can model fear propagation. Analysts map how terror spreads through populations. Vlad achieved this intuitively, without data, without algorithms. He tested, observed, and refined. Iteration without empathy. What makes this story relevant to a technology audience is not the gore. It is the system. Vlad built a fear machine. Input was punishment. Output was compliance. Feedback loops have refined severity. That is systems engineering in its darkest form. He understood that humans are not purely rational. They respond emotionally first. Terror short-circuits logic. This principle underpins modern psychological operations. Vlad practiced it centuries ago with brutal efficiency. And here is the most unsettling part. It worked. Wallachia survived longer than expected. Crime reportedly decreased. Enemies hesitated. The cost was human suffering on an unimaginable scale, but the strategy succeeded in its narrow objective. History often sanitizes innovation. We praise efficiency, optimization, and disruption. Vlad was a disruptor. He disrupted warfare, governance, and fear itself. The question is not whether his methods were evil. They were. The question is how easily systems can be built that prioritize results over humanity. Today, we build technologies that influence behavior at scale. Algorithms shape opinions. Surveillance shapes actions. Vlad used stakes. We use data, different tools, same underlying principle. Control through fear or influence. That is why this story still matters, not as medieval horror, but as a warning. Systems without ethical constraints drift toward cruelty. Efficiency does not equal morality. Optimization without empathy creates monsters. Vlad's punishment system extended beyond impalement and into economic and social control. Merchants who cheated on weights or prices were punished publicly to destroy trust in dishonest trade. Coins were nailed to bodies or displayed beside victims as symbols of corruption. This sent a clear signal that economic crimes threatened the state itself. Trade routes through Wallachia reportedly became safer because fear replaced regulation. The order was enforced through consequence rather than law. The economy stabilized under terror-driven compliance. This tactic mirrors how modern systems use severe penalties to discourage financial crime. Vlad understood that money flows where fear enforces honesty. His cruelty functioned as economic policy. Violence became a regulatory tool. Punishments were also used to reshape loyalty among the nobility. Boyars who challenged Vlad's authority were not simply executed. Many were forced into labor or marched long distances until they collapsed. Others were impaled in positions meant to humiliate their status. This dismantled old power structures and replaced them with fear-based loyalty. Titles no longer protected anyone from consequence. The authority became centralized in Vlad alone. By breaking elite resistance publicly, he prevented organized rebellion. This tactic resembles modern purges used to consolidate control. Fear eliminated rivals more efficiently than negotiation. Power became absolute through terror. Religious symbolism played a role in Vlad's punishments as well. Execution sites were sometimes placed near churches or monasteries. This blurred the line between divine judgment and state violence. People began to associate obedience with survival and sin with punishment. Vlad leveraged belief systems to reinforce authority. By embedding terror into spiritual spaces, fear became moralized. Disobedience felt not just dangerous, but sinful. This psychological layering deepened compliance. Modern behavioral control often blends authority with moral framing. Vlad did this centuries earlier through calculated placement and symbolism. The treatment of prisoners varied depending on their origin. Foreign enemies faced different punishments than local criminals. Ottoman soldiers were often impaled en masse to send geopolitical messages. Local thieves faced slower public deaths meant to shame communities. This differentiation showed strategic intent. Vlad tailored punishment to the audience and objective. Each execution was a message broadcast to a specific group. Modern communication theory emphasizes audience targeting. Vlad practiced it through physical spectacle. Violence became a language with multiple dialects, and weather and seasonal timing were also considered. Executions during colder months increased suffering through exposure. Bodies are preserved longer in winter, extending visibility. Summer executions amplified smell and decay, intensifying sensory impact. Vlad understood environmental amplification. Nature became part of the punishment system. This increased effectiveness without additional resources. Modern system designers optimize environments for desired outcomes. Vlad optimized the climate for fear. Every variable was exploited. Punishment rituals followed consistent procedures. This predictability reinforced inevitability. People knew exactly what would happen if they disobeyed. Uncertainty was removed. Fear became stable rather than chaotic. This consistency increased compliance because the rules were clear. Modern systems rely on predictable enforcement to shape behavior. Vlad achieved this through ritualized brutality. The execution process itself became a deterrent algorithm. Inputs produced known outcomes. Women were not exempt from punishment, which was unusual for the era. Crimes like adultery or betrayal could result in impalement or mutilation. This equal application reinforced total control. No social group was protected. Fear penetrated every layer of society. This universality prevented pockets of resistance. Modern authoritarian systems often fail when exemptions exist. Vlad eliminated exceptions. Terror became inclusive. Children sometimes witnessed executions intentionally. This conditioned fear early. Trauma became a teaching tool. Generations grew up internalizing obedience. This long-term psychological impact reduced future resistance. Modern studies show early exposure shapes behavior permanently. Vlad applied this without scientific language. Fear became cultural inheritance. Control extended beyond his lifetime through memory. Diplomatic correspondence from the era reveals that Vlad carefully cultivated his image abroad. Letters described punishments in graphic detail. These were not confessions, they were warnings. He wanted enemies to imagine the consequences. This narrative control amplified fear beyond borders. Modern leaders use the media for deterrence. Vlad used letters and rumors. Information spread more slowly, but hit harder. Archaeological evidence supports accounts of mass execution sites. Post holes aligned in rows suggest organized impalement fields. This physical data confirms written records. The scale was not exaggerated folklore. It was infrastructure. Execution required logistics. Stakes had to be produced, transported, and installed. This implies planning and resource allocation. Violence was industrialized for its time. Systems existed to sustain terror. Medical historians note that prolonged survival required controlled insertion angles. This suggests trained executioners. Knowledge was passed down. Execution became a specialized role. This professionalization increased efficiency. Modern systems rely on specialized operators. Vlad built human tools to maintain fear. Skill replaced randomness. Understanding this is not about glorifying brutality. It is about recognizing how systems drift when unchecked. Vlad's world lacked constraints. Today we have laws, ethics, and oversight. But technology scales influence faster than the stakes ever could. The lesson is vigilance. If systems prioritize outcomes over humanity, history shows where that leads. Vlad the Impaler is not just a medieval tyrant. He is a case study in how fear becomes policy, and why power without limits always finds its sharpest edge. Vlad the Impaler did not need advanced technology. He needed an understanding of human psychology, and that knowledge remains dangerous today. If this breakdown shocked you, stick with this channel, because we uncover the hidden systems. Was Vlad a madman, or a strategist who understood humans too well? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for deep dives that connect the past to the tech shaping our future.